Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the December 10th Professional VMware vBrownbag. Tonight we have Chris Halstead, who's going to be discussing and giving a live demo of VMware's AppVolumes. I'm your host, Ahmad Yunus. Just some quick show notes. You can follow in on the conversation using the vBrownbag hashtag, and you can also join in using the GoToMeeting window, leave comments, questions, whatnot. We also have other podcasts going on globally, so check those out. You can also download any of the shows via iTunes or by going to professionalvmware.com as well. Our guest speaker tonight is Chris Halstead, and of course I'm your host, Ahmad Yunus. The end of the year giveaway is still going on. You have about a week left. I believe you have until the 16th of December to sign up. So get your entry in, and the winners will be announced on the last show of 2014, which is December 17th. So thanks to all our sponsors for chipping in on some great giveaways. So we have Synology, HP, ClearPath. We have books from Cody Bunch and Nick Marshall, so some great prizes out there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Cool, thanks, Ahmad.
Yep, there you go.
My screen shared out. You see my screen okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, guys. Yeah, thanks so much. So again, my name is Chris Halstead. I'm actually an EUC SE at VMware, and we're going to talk to you today about AppVolumes. So if you're not familiar with AppVolumes, it's from an acquisition that VMware made of a company called CloudVolumes right before VMworld US in August. So it's really about real-time application delivery, application lifecycle management. I'm going to go through an overview of it today, and then a whole bunch of demo. So we're going to do lots of demo. We're going to create FStags. We're going to update FStags. We're going to deliver them to both VDI and RDSH, and lots of demos. So hopefully my little home lab won't blow up. So we'll see how it goes. But as Ahmad mentioned, for questions, we'll do questions in line. So just ask them on Twitter with the vBrownbag hashtag, or you can certainly pipe them directly into GoToMeeting, and then Ahmad will jump in, and then I'll address them. Again, this is a very new product. It went GA yesterday, so I may not have all the answers today, but what I'll do is if I can't answer something today, I will get you an answer. So we'll either communicate through direct message on Twitter or email. I'll get you that answer. I just might not have it for you today. So the first thing I want to touch on is a lot of people are confused, where does AppVolumes fit from, we have Mirage, we have ThinApp, like where does AppVolumes fit into this? So I kind of want to touch base on this first just to let you guys know where these pieces fit together and how they complement each other. So AppVolumes, think of AppVolumes as strictly for virtual environments. So it's strictly for virtual desktop environments or RDSH that are virtualized. It can be for both Horizon 6 as far as VDI and published applications, or Citrix as well. Citrix, both Zen Desktop and Zen App work great with AppVolumes. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, Mirage is more for managing physical endpoints. So Mirage is about central management, distributed execution, and also fits into the new Flex product that we have for doing containerized virtual machines. I'm going to probably do a session on Flex here, in the next few weeks or so. And then we have ThinApp. Now, ThinApp is still very important when it comes to AppVolumes because ThinApp allows that encapsulation and allows applications that don't necessarily play nice together to run side by side. AppVolumes is going to honor any conflict. That means the app is still going to crash, right? So if you try to put two versions of IE in two different app stacks, it's still going to crash. So it's a great way to deliver ThinApps, which is something that I'll show you in the demo, because, again, we're not streaming those ThinApps out to the hard disk. We're not copying them across. We're simply storing them in one place in the data center, and we're attaching them directly to the virtual machine. So what is AppVolumes? So it's really about real-time, again, application delivery and application lifecycle management, meaning creating an application, updating an application, and then getting rid of an application down the road. And all those processes are actually very easy, and I'll show you that when we get to the demo. And the nice thing is we can manage these application sets based on a specific group of users. So we can build application groups, that everybody has. So, things like Firefox or Adobe Reader or, maybe Office. And then we can build other logical sets of applications that are more specific to accounting or engineering or human resources. We can layer those on top of each other and provide a very unique and consistent environment across virtual desktops. And again, we can do this in seconds. And I'll show you how this works, and we'll go into this deeper. But basically, these containers of applications are simply disk files. They're VMDK files. So we're attaching those to a virtual machine using either the vSphere or the vCenter APIs, and we're able to locally install those applications within just a few seconds. So what we get is persistent, the features of a persistent desktop, right? So the user's able to install applications, able to have very granular delivery of applications with a non-persistent desktop underneath it all. And again, this works great with Citrix, XenApp, XenDesktop, PVS, MCS, Composer. And that's really the nice thing is you don't have to change your existing environment. It'll integrate into what you have very, very quickly. Hopefully you guys we can get the eval stuff worked out and you guys can download it and start playing with it. I think you'll be amazed at how easy it is to set up and how quickly you can set up and start provisioning applications. And again, from an efficiency standpoint, we're installing an application one time and we're delivering it many times. We're installing it once into a VMDK file. We're attaching that VMDK file multiple times on the network. But again, we're only actually using the disk footprint of one installation of that piece of software. So what that allows us to do is from a link clone standpoint, we can have an extremely generic desktop that doesn't have anything on it other than maybe antivirus in a AppVolumes agent. And then we can deploy these applications down in real time to the system. So how does this work? So traditionally, VMware has been known for obviously virtualizing underneath the operating system. What we're doing here is we're actually virtualizing on top of the operating system with this AppVolumes agent. So where in the past we would install these applications directly into the operating system, whether it was a gold image in a link clone or just directly into a physical or a standard full clone system. What we're doing here is we're basically virtualizing and abstracting out the registry and the file system, and we're basically creating these application containers, which we call application stacks or app stacks, and we're layering them on top of the operating system to virtualize at that level, within that app container level. Now we're also able to capture and maintain user changes. So those app stacks that you see there on the left, those are read-only. So again, we install the application one time, we present those into a virtual machine, and they're presented in a read-only fashion. We have another type of disk file which is called a writable volume, and that's a read-write volume. Now when you create one of those, you have the option of basically redirecting the user's profile to it and also allowing for user-installed applications. So you can get to a point where you have an extremely generic floating desktop. We install the applications in real time, and we still allow the user, if you guys want to install their own applications, and we can keep their persona consistent across devices.
Chris.
Now we're going to do this here in a minute. Yes?
So we have our first question kind of pertaining to what you were discussing. So say you have a jump server that everybody uses, but the users install apps that can break other apps. Can AppVolumes help keep apps segregated and not break other apps so all the users are happy?
So that's where ThinApp would probably come in. So leveraging ThinApp and AppVolumes together. If you have applications that don't play nice together, like different versions of Internet Explorer, or if you have applications that require different versions of Java, I would recommend actually wrapping them with ThinApp and then actually deploying that ThinApp as part of an application layer. It's not really, there's no containerization There's no virtualization going on in the sense that it's not a separate wrapped entity. It's still running. It looks and feels like a natively installed application. So if it's going to conflict, typically, it's still going to conflict in an AppVolumes environment. That's where something like SynApp would really be beneficial. Okay?
Okay.
So we're going to show this in a second, but the provisioning process is very simple. You create an empty app stack, which is an empty VMDK file. You mount it onto a system that you've designated as a provisioning system, and we'll talk more about that. You install the application normally. There's no sequencing. There's no packaging. There's nothing special that you have to do. And then you provision that out to your either a user or a system, a computer. Now, the reason you would do one or the other is from desktops, typically, you would either do user, group, or organizational type assignments. And the nice thing about AppVolumes is it's completely Active Directory integrated. So as your users log in, they're going to receive their app stacks, whether it's a user, a group, or OU assignment. Now, if you're looking at RDSH, if you're looking to publish applications out with VNapp or with Horizon 6, obviously you don't want that to be targeted to an individual user. So you can target those application stacks to the machine account. And then the AppVolumes service will basically detect that and attach those when the system starts up. And that's kind of what I'm showing here. So there are two primary use cases at GA. So the primary use cases that are supported today are going to be VDI with Vue or XenDesktop, and RDSH with Horizon 6 or XenApp. And it's one thing to note is it's only supported, RDSH is only supported with 2008 R2 64-bit today. So, and again, you know, the updating process, we're going to do this updating process as well. Very, very easy to update an app stack and then deploy it back out. So you need to patch an application. You need to change some applications that are contained within that stack. Very, very straightforward process in doing that. And that's really part of that lifecycle management, creating, updating, and then retiring. So we'll go through some of the components. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to make sure you guys understand what these different pieces are. Obviously, a user is going to be an Active Directory entity that that we can actually assign these stacks to. The manager is a Windows server that you'll use to go in and administer these stacks, and also it's the brokering point. That's where the agent will point to. There's a SQL database. It comes, when you set it up for POC or for trial, it actually comes with a SQL Express database. Obviously, for production, you want to convert that to a productive style of SQL database, make that highly available. The agent is really the key to attaching and detaching the stacks. So that would be installed in all the systems, whether they're desktop systems or RDSH servers. You need to have that agent in there that can communicate with the AppVolumes server and then pull down those app stacks. So that would be a key component when you're creating a gold image to deploy out with Composer or PBS. An app stack volume, again, this is a read-only volume that you've installed applications into. And then you have the writable volume, which is assigned to a user directly. And then it's a read-write volume, so they can store their profile and any user-installed applications into that environment. One thing to note, a user can only be connected from one system at a time to a user writable volume. By default, it will block log on to additional systems. So you just have to keep that in mind. What you can do is you can put filters on the writable volume to say only connect on these systems with this naming convention. That's something that I've done in the demo. I'll show you that. Provisioning desktop or server. So when you provision an app stack, you want to provision it, you don't want to provision an app stack on Windows 7 and then deploy it to a 2008 R2 RDSH server. You want to make sure that you have a provisioning system that's a server provisioning system, and then one that's a desktop system to make sure that you're creating them on the proper architecture. We leverage Virtual Center as well as direct access to vSphere. In my little lab environment, I have a tiny little vSphere server, so I just directly connect to that. Obviously, in a production environment, you can connect in the virtual center, and then it'll control mapping those app stacks via the APIs. Now, something that not a lot of people know about, it's very new to us as well, even a lot of the VMware folks, is there's an AppVolumes view broker service. Now, what this does is this is a service that gets installed onto the connection server, the view connection server, and what it does is it talks to AppVolumes, and as a user is going through the process of connecting into the connection broker, it talks to AppVolumes, determines which desktop they're going to be assigned, and then AppVolumes essentially gets a head start on attaching any app stacks and the user-writable volume into that desktop so that it doesn't delay the logon process when the user actually hits the desktop. Without using this broker, each app stack can add maybe 1 or 2 seconds to the login time. So this is something that you're definitely going to want to look at. So the writable volume, again, user-installed applications, any licensing, configuration data, it's basically going to redirect the local profile to this writable volume. Now, you have 3 different types of writable volumes that you can create. You can do profile only, user-installed apps only, or both profile and user-installed apps.
Hey, Chris,
so this isn't necessary. Yes.
Why local admin rights? This would be a no-go in our environment, according to Ken Thomas.
Yeah, I'll find out more on that, on why exactly. I assume because we're basically creating mount points and we're, adding these mount points and these volumes into the environment. I will find out for you if we can put that on Twitter, or we can just get that, kind of on the parking lot, if you will. I'll address that and I'll get the answer for you. I don't have that answer exactly right now, but I will get that for you. So thank you for the question. So it's very basic, as far as the UEM aspects of a user-writable volume go. It's not going to do any printer mappings. It's not going to do anything that you would typically do with a third-party UEM product. So it's complementary to those, but it will basically take the profile and allow it to essentially roam around by redirection into the CMDK file, which is then attached into the virtual machines as you log in. So some security considerations, again, obviously replace the SSL certificate that it comes with. As we just mentioned on the previous question, SynApp applications are going to be able to be leveraged to leverage in isolated application modes. So if you have applications that don't play next together, you're going to want to leverage SynApp and then deploy those SynApps through AppStacks. And again, AppStacks read-only, and you need to have an Active Directory account to do the lookups, and then obviously you need to have vCenter or vSphere access to be able to map those APIs in. So what's the backup and recovery process look like? So it's pretty straightforward. Make sure you back up the SQL database, contains configuration data. Back up the AppStacks, which are simply CMDK files that will live in ones. Back up the writable volumes, which again are CMDK files. And then to restore is kind of do that backwards. So restore the SQL database, install the CloudVolumes or the AppVolumes manager, point it back to that database. You have to be careful. There's an option in there that's checked by default to overwrite the database. So you want to uncheck that so it doesn't overwrite the database. Install the agent on the systems, or just restart the service if they're already there, and it'll be good to go. So one thing to note too is the actual AppVolume manager server, they're stateless. All the data is stored in the SQL database. So you can design this for highly available environments, and this is obviously recommended when you look to scale this out for production environments. Get a load balancer with a VIP. That's where you want to point your agent to. Create horizontally scale the AppVolumes manager VMs, and then provide a highly available SQL database and volumes to store those AppStacks. So some best practices: anything that's kernel mode, antivirus, things like that, you do not want to put into an app stack. You want to put those into the base image. Any applications that require users to be logged in to run don't really work well in an app stack. And what else? So again, if applications are dependent on each other, so if you have an application that's going to call Outlook a lot, or if you have an application that's going to call Adobe, you probably want to keep those together just in the sense of if one of those gets detached or unprovisioned to a system, you don't want to break the other application. So if you have two applications that are very tightly coupled, it's probably best practice to deploy them on the same app stack. And then don't recommend deploying more than 15 app stacks per endpoint today. And again, like I mentioned, if you're not using an integration broker, it can take about a second to mount an app stack. So if you had 15, that could be 20, maybe even 30 seconds to log in if you're not using an integration broker. So that could add some time to your login process. So this URL, and I will send this out via Twitter as well, it's not updated yet. I was told sometime tonight, if you go to this URL, you'll be able to download the trial with the trial key for 60 days, as well as there will be a link to a new hands-on lab of AppVolumes that will be publicly available. So jot this down. I'll send it out via Twitter as well, but this will be the place to go to be able to download the trial and to jump into the hands-on lab environment. So with that, let's jump into demo. So got a lot of stuff I want to show you guys, so we'll get through it. And then at any point, again, if you guys have questions, just you know, get them into Twitter or get them into GoToMeeting, and I'll get them answered for you. So the first thing I want to do is walk through the admin console. So we've got basically a little dashboard here giving you some basic information on what's happened recently. But most of your work is going to be done within the Volumes tab. This is where you can view the volumes that you have created already. You can update them. You can create new volumes. You can assign them. This is where you're going to do the majority of your work. Now, if you had app stacks that are existing on additional LUNs, you can import them here, select that LUN, select the path, and then it'll import those into your environment. You manage the user writable volumes here. So you can basically, you can see in my case, it's only going to mount on systems that start with AV_demo. So you can adjust that as you set up the individual writable volume. You can determine which operating systems it'll map onto, and then obviously set the prefix. Now, if I wanted to create a new one, I simply select a user, a group, or an OU. And I'll just select a user here. And then, again, I have the option of what type. Do I want to do profile only? Do I want to do user installed apps and profile, or just user installed apps only? And then, again, I can limit how this thing is presented. I can see any current attachments. You can see I'm logged into this virtual desktop right now, and it actually has my writable volume attached to it. No assignments right now. And then these are all the applications that are located within all of the different app stacks that I have created right now. So directory, this is basically just users, groups, OUs that are managed. You can view the client version, what type of system is it? Is it a terminal server? Is it a desktop? You can get some other information on the client version, how many times it's connected, when is it last booted up, all that good stuff. And then if you had assignments, groups, or OUs, you would see those here. The infrastructure tab is going to show you all the systems that are managed by this environment. So the systems that have an agent that are actually talking to that environment. I honestly don't know what this clone tab is going to do. This is something that's new. I'll get more information on this, but you can basically go through and clone existing systems, kind of like you could do with Composer. But I don't know exactly what the intent is here. These are your LUNs that it sees today, and this is a nice feature. This allows you to create a storage group. So what you can do is basically take one or more LUNs, more than one LUN, 2, 3, 4 LUNs, and basically group them together into a storage group. That way, you'll be able to spread your volumes, whether they're AppStacks or writable volumes, across. So you have a couple different options. You have spread, which is basically going to kind of evenly distribute across the two. You have spillover, which is going to fill up one first and then jump into the next one. And then you have round robin, which is going to basically look at the system that had the oldest copy and overwrite that. They'll go back and forth. There's some activity log information as far as attaching, detaching AppStacks, any type of system messages, and then a server log here. And this is basically the web server log. Now, when you set up AppVolumes the first time, you're going to be prompted to connect to Active Directory, to connect to your hypervisor. One of the things, as you go through the install, supported hypervisors are going to be vSphere 5.0, 5.x, so 5.0, 5.5, as well as vCenter, and also actually Hyper-V is supported with SCDVM 2012 SP1. But when you actually have to, when you install it, you have to choose that as an option, and it's a VHD option, meaning it's not going to use the MDK files, obviously. What it's going to do is attach VHDs via CIFS in a non-persistent fashion. So that's basically how that's handled today. There's not a lot out there on it as far as the documentation standpoint, but it is indicated as one of the supported hypervisors in the release notes. So you have your Active Directory connection. You determine administrators here, hypervisor connection, and then again the storage. And then this is where you can determine where you want to store your AppStacks and where you want to store your writable volumes. This can be an individual LUN or it can be a storage group. So for production, we definitely recommend a storage group. That way you can manage your underlying LUNs without needing to change the storage settings that you've set up here. So with that being said, we'll go through and we'll start doing some good stuff in here. So the first thing we're going to do is basically create an AppStack, just a really basic AppStack, and deploy it out to a system. So we hit Create AppStack, call this Demo Stack, and then we'll just basically deploy Notepad++ to this as a setup. So you can see it's got basically the path of where it can be located, the LUN, the path, and then there's a template. So there are templates for AppStacks and then templates for writable volumes. The default size of the template for an AppStack is 20 gigs thin provisions, and the default size for a writable volume is 10 gigs thin provisions, and that can be modified to whatever you need. Some applications are obviously going to need more than 20 gigs, or some AppStacks, and you might need more in your writable volume as well. So we hit Create. What this is doing is creating an empty VMDK file based off of that template, and then it's going to allow me to mount it onto a provisioning system. Refresh that. You can see it's unprovisioned. So I click on it. I hit Provision. Now it says, what system do you want to provision this on? So I'm going to choose my provisioning system. Hit Provision. And I'm going to pop over to it here. And you can see it's already popped up, telling me that I'm in provisioning mode. Now this is a Windows 7 system that's very similar to the VDI systems that I've deployed. And that's the key too. You want the systems to be consistent. If you're using Vue, you want to put a Vue agent on the system. If you're doing RDSH, you want to put a Vue agent on the RDSH system that you're capturing from as well. It's very important. So I'm in provisioning mode. So I'm going to go through and just install a little tiny app of Notepad++. So that's installed. Let's test it out. Okay, so I'm done. Hit OK. Installation complete. I hit yes. It's going to analyze what's been installed, and that's going to, I'm going to reboot the system. It's going to, you know, to detach that AppStack, so basically detach that system, or that VMDK from the system. What we'll do now is basically just reboot it. Now, when I attach this to the system here in a second, I'll go into Virtual Center and I'll show you what it looks like on that side. But it's basically simply using the APIs for vCenter or vSphere, attaching those VMDKs in directly into that system. Give that a second. We'll connect back in. Yeah, it's still rebooting.
So, Chris, while that's going on,
Is there any questions?
yeah, we have one question right now. So, is it recommended to install the Horizon agent on the agent to capture the machines?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, if you're going to be using Horizon View to deploy these desktops, absolutely put a view agent on the provisioning desktop that you're going to use. The same with RDSH, and this is something I just learned yesterday actually, because I was having problems publishing applications through RDSH. Then I realized that we had to put a view agent on the RDSH provisioning box, and everything worked just fine. So yeah, that's a very good question, and actually a very good point. So it looks like it's good. So every time you create an AppStack, you create it, you want to reboot the system, and then log back into it. When you log back in, it's going to basically tell you that that AppStack has provisions, and it'll be ready to deploy. Okay, you can see successfully provisioned. Click OK, and now I go back to the AppVolumes Manager. Sorry for jumping around. And you'll see it's provisioned. It's ready to go. It's green over here. So what I can do now is assign this to a virtual machine. So I have a desktop here, right here, that's basically just a clean, it's part of a floating pool that has 3 desktops in it. It doesn't have anything on it, really, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this demo stack to it. So I'm going to select my username. So I'm logged into that system. And I'm going to choose to assign that AppStack immediately. You have the option of immediately or next login or reboot. In practice, you would typically just do next login or reboot, and these stacks would be delivered as the user logs in. But in this case, we're just going to do this immediately. And you'll see it's assigning and attaching the AppStack, and you can see even before I can get to the system, it's already here. So now if we go to Virtual Center, which one am I on? I'm on AD Demo 1. You'll see there's a demo stack here that's attached to the system. It also has my writable volume, which is another VMDK. And then I have the demo stack, which is attached here. Now these stacks are just, as we mentioned, just VMDK files. If I go in and I look at the data store, you can see they're just VMDK files that contain those applications. So, good test. What we're going to do now is we're going to do something a little more complicated. We're going to take an existing app, we're going to attach it, and we're going to update that AppStack. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this AppStack because we're done with it. You delete it, it'll immediately detach it from that system as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to attach an AppStack called iKeyPort Apps. It contains Adobe Reader and Evernote and a couple other things. So we'll assign that. We'll do it exactly the same way. And you'll basically see those pop in here. And if I refresh this, you'll see that these applications are installed now. Locally, natively installed onto that endpoint. within literally just a couple seconds. So I've got a thin app of the vSphere client here. I've got a full installation of Firefox, Evernote, and Adobe Reader. So what I want to do here is I want to get rid of Firefox and I want to add Notepad++ into this stack. So what I'm going to do is basically update the stack. So I'll show you how that process works. So I go to my app stack, choose update. It's going to ask me for a name, and that's fine. So I'll say remove Firefox, add Notepad++. It's going to create an additional VMDK file, but it's going to reference that initial stack. So when we provision that, when we attach it to the provisioning system, it's going to attach that old stack to it and allow us to do whatever we want to do. If we want to update an app, add an app, change, remove an app, and that's really where the lifecycle management comes in, is being able to update on the fly. And again, the people who are using it right now, they're not affected because we're creating a copy of it, and then we're just going to update that copy when we decide we want to deploy that out to those users. So creating it's a little bit bigger because it bakes it off of that other app stack. And I have a very slow lab. There we go. Unprovisioned, so we're going to provision it. We're going to choose my provisioning system again. Jump all the way over to our provisioning system. Oops, that's the RDSH one. I got to reconnect in. Right there, sorry. So you can see it's in provisioning mode, and it's attached to that existing app stack. So what we're going to do now we can just make whatever changes we want to the stack, and they'll be reflected in this updated version. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to uninstall Firefox. And I'm going to install Notepad++ from the same app that we have. There we go. So we're going to say we're good to go. Installation is complete. It's going to again analyze the changes. And we can reboot. Detach the app stack. Reboot it. So one of the things I want to show you guys too while that's rebooting is the user writable volume piece. So I have a user writable volume attached to this system. Now if I go into my documents, you can see I have some data here. I have some code for Visual Studio, which we'll deploy in a little while. I have a Word document, and then I have a WinFTP setup file. So what I'm going to do here is just create a file on the desktop from demo 1, system I'm currently connected into, and I'm actually going to. I'm not going to do that yet. I'll change the background on the next system. So what I'll do is I'll log out here, then we'll log into the pool, and hopefully we'll get a different desktop.
So Chris, we have another question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If we were to crack open the VMDK that contains the app, what would it look like? What is captured inside the VMDK?
Yeah, so there are obviously the installation files are captured there, as well as some scripts. So it's actually very interesting to go look at it. There are some script files that it uses to basically do the kind of tricking the system into thinking these things are installed locally. So basically installation files plus script files that are used to do the abstraction and to trick the system. And I actually got the same system. So let me actually shut this one down and connect back in. I have 3 systems in this pool. actually connected to it again. It was shutting down. There we go. So that's actually cached from, that you can see we're on AV Demo 2 now. And you can see I've got my document here that I dropped on. I've got my app stack that was attached to the system. And if I go into my documents, I'll have my code as well as everything looks the same. So the idea is we're taking that local profile, we're redirecting it to that VMDK, and it's following us around. We don't have to replicate it across the CIF share because it's locally attached to a VMDK file. So it obviously works a little bit better that way. It's a little bit speedier. So what we'll do now is we'll go back to the provisioning server and we'll finish the provisioning of that app stack update. And then we'll deploy it out to our system. Provisioning successful. Okay. We go back to our AppVolumes manager, and you can see this update is ready to go. So what I'll do now is the best practice is you want to unassign an app stack, an old app stack, before you apply a new one. And that's because depending on what you're deploying down, certain applications don't like to be installed side by side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign the original core app stack, and I'm going to assign the new one. And again, typically you would do this at log on and log off. You wouldn't do this real time, but for demo purposes, it makes it a little bit easier. So you can see the old app stack is gone. You can see my new app stack is there, and it has Notepad++ in it, which is what I deployed as part of that stack. So pretty cool. So one of the things I'll do here too is I'll just change the background just to show that all aspects of the profile are maintained. This is from when I was in Barcelona for VMware Europe. Very nice there on the beach. So I'll set that, and then what we'll do now is we're going to basically do a user-installed application. So I'll show you how those user-installed applications will persist across devices. So I've got WinFTP here, so we'll install that. Okay, so that's actually installed into the user writable volume now. So that will persist across me connecting into different devices, different desktops. So what we'll do now is we'll actually log off this desktop. And we'll log back in. And then we'll just make sure that everything persisted across. And then what we're going to do is we're going to deploy down a couple of our app stacks that we need.
Should have like some theme music or something while that's going on. Looks like we lost audio.
Sorry, I guess I'm muted somehow. So I was wondering if there's any questions. I'm going to actually log out here to kick that because I think I didn't like to attach immediately there. And again, best practice would be to do it at log on, log off, instead of trying to force all this stuff through. But it'll typically handle it just fine doing that immediate. The issues with doing that are, especially if you're updating an stack and someone has an application open, it's not going to like that very much. You know, if someone's working in Word and you deploy an update from Word or you remove it, it's obviously going to crash. So you can see I have Visual Studio. And actually it's connected into a completely different system as well. I'm in AV Demo 1 now. It's maintained my settings. It knows that I opened this project up earlier. Not exactly a development class system here, so it takes a little while to open up, but get the idea. I think Visual Studio is around 10 gigs fully installed because I have all the components installed, all 126 plus applications. So pretty large application to be deploying through an app stack. So pretty cool. Did we have any additional questions that are queued up?
Let's see. Okay, so we just got one from the hashtag. How do you handle the apps with profile-specific settings without writable volumes? Firefox asks each user if they should be default. That's kind of an example.
Yeah, so if you're not going to use writable volumes, you could use something like, if you're using Vue, you could use persona management to basically take that profile and save it off to a stiff share. You could use any third-party tool like Profile Unity, Res, AppSense. Those would all be able to handle as well. The writable volume is just it's a profile replication utility basically, allowing you to roam that profile, but it's not a requirement by any means. So you could use any of those other solutions. Again, Vue comes with persona management, and then you have all these other third-party solutions that you could use. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to basically deploy down Office 2013 to the system. So I have a Word doc here, but I can't open it. So I want to go back to my manager, and find Office 2013, which I've deployed into a stack. I'm going to assign that to my user again. Pop back. I think I can smell my server on fire. Doing all this stuff, but okay, froze. There we go. Okay, froze for a second. But you can see I deployed down Office 2013. I've got this Word doc here, so I can simply refresh and open that up. So this is great especially for applications that you want to control, things like Visio or different applications that you might not want to deploy out to everybody. You want to be able to control how those applications are delivered and really for how long. So you can do that by AD group, by OU, control that, add someone to a group, take them out of that group, and those applications will dynamically be added and removed from their system. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show on the desktop side. I'm going to jump over and we'll look at the RDSH side now. So we'll actually deploy an app stack to an RDSH server. We'll publish those out as applications, and then we'll update them. Were there any questions on the VDI piece before we move on?
Yeah, there's actually, okay, so are there any special requirements for writable volumes for user-installed apps? That's one question.
Nope. So, one of the things, so an app stack is read-only, and it's going to generate a lot of read IOPS if you have a bunch of people connected to it. So, an app stack, very similar to a replica in Vue, if you're using link clones, you're going to want to put that on something fast if you have a bunch of people connected to it. So something like Flash, SSD. Now, as far as the writable volumes, they're going to be a mix of read and write, depending on the type of user. So you want to just definitely, kind of map out your users, understand how much they're reading and writing, and then determine what type of storage as far as performance characteristics. But there's no requirement as far as, all you have to do is provision it and then say you want it to be used for user-installed apps. That's all there is to it. It's going to capture those apps, and it's going to persist them across any desktops that you apply the writable volume to. And again, you can apply a filter to only have it connect on certain systems.
The other question is, are there a number of hoops to jump through when using ThinApp to containerize Office, let's say 2010 or 13? Are there any special steps needed for using Office on AppVolumes?
Yes, for both. So there are guidelines. There are guidelines that are published for creating app stacks of Office as well as thin apps of Office, and they are documented. I don't know that the user guide for AppVolumes has that Office 2013 guidance in yet, but it is. I've seen it. It will be there. If it's not there now, it will be there shortly. So to answer your question, yes, there are specific guidances around both ThinApp and AppVolumes for Office. Office is kind of a unique beast, if you will. Okay. Well, I'll jump over to RDSH now. So again, our primary use cases are going to be VDI, Vue, and Zen Desktop, as well as RDSH through Zen App or Horizon 6. So I'm going to show you Horizon 6. That's what I have in my environment. So I've got an RDSH box here. So it's 2008 R2. I've enabled the RDS role, as you can see. And I'm going to deploy down an app stack I have called RDSH apps. And this basically has the Mirage console, Chrome, Firefox, and Notepad++. Now, one of the things about, if anyone played with Mirage, when you deploy the Mirage console, like I have right here, one of the requirements is that the .NET 3.5 framework needs to be installed. So the cool thing about capturing and deploying app stacks into servers like this is it's going to install .NET 3.5, that feature, on this system dynamically as it applies this app stack to it. So the idea is you can have a generic pool of these RDSH servers, apply app stacks to them, and then publish those applications out. Anyone who's managed Citrix or Horizon 6 environments, you have to keep everything consistent across those servers. This is a great way to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that app stack to it. Now in this case, I'm going to apply to the machine. In the past, I was applying to my username, but since I'm targeting an RDSH server, I want to make sure that that app stack persists even when I log out of that system. I want it to attach when the service starts up, and I want it to detach when the service shuts down. So I'll select the system, and I can still apply it immediately as long as someone is logged into that system. So we jump back, and the app stack will be delivered here. And if we go to our features here and we refresh this, you'll notice that .NET 3.5 was installed as well. Very, 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 very cool way to keep these things consistent. So what I'm going to do now is I have these apps. I'm going to go into Vue, and I'm going to publish these out as applications. Let's jump over to the Vue admin console. So we go down to our application pools. I have one published right now, calculator. I'm going to click add. And you can see it actually detected those applications. So I'm going to select those 3 applications. I'm going to entitle them. And then I'm also going to create a manual application for the Mirage admin console. Now basically just pointing to the MSC file and calling it MMC. Okay, so those are published. I'm going to go into my view client and going to connect into those things. Let's disconnect from my desktop here. Actually going to disconnect and reconnect to my server. So you can see I have my apps here. So I'll launch the Mirage admin console. Go, and then I'll launch Notepad++ as well. This is actually a thin app. You'll actually see it pop up. Actually, it was already installed. It was already I already had it running. It was just connected to an existing session. But the cool thing is this is a seamless, app I'm running on a Mac, and interacts with the dock. Looks and feels like these things are installed locally, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and try to connect to my Mirage server. Now what you'll notice is I actually can't connect because I have a newer version of the client than what exists on the server today. So I need to basically update the stack to make sure that I have version 18.875 of the console before I can connect. So let's go ahead and disconnect from here, and let's update the app stack. So we've got our RDSH stack here. We do update. And I'll say revert Mirage console to 18, what was it? Whatever. I'll say older version. Can't remember the number. Hit create. Again, it's going to reference the initial one. It's going to create a new VMBK file with these updates. So it'll take a couple seconds here. And then what we'll do in this case is I have a provisioning system that's running 2008 R2 that I have a view agent on, and that I'm going to use to basically provision and update RDSH-based applications. It's unprovisioned. Say provision, and I'll find my RDSH provision system. Jump over to it. It's somewhere here. There it is. So you can see it's in provisioning mode, and you can see it attached that app stack in. So what I need to do is I need to uninstall this version of the Mirage client, and I need to install the older one. So you can see I'm running version 21788 right now, so I'm going to uninstall that. And then I just happen to have the version I need in folder right here. So I'll go ahead and install that, 18.875. Finish here. If we refresh this, see we have 18.875 installed now. So I'm done. Click OK. Click Yes. Going to analyze. Going to detach the SAP stack. Going to reboot the system. And then when the system comes back up, I'll log into it, complete the process, and then I'll be able to assign it to my RDSH server, and then hopefully I'll be able to connect into my Mirage environment. This will take a couple of seconds. Do we have any questions at this point?
Don't see anything right now.
I'm going to jump over to Virtual Center and watch this thing. Back up here. But the key is, again, when you're provisioning, you want to provision on the same platform, essentially, that you're going to deliver onto. It's fine to build something on Windows 7, deploy it to maybe 7, 8, 8.1. That'll work, fine most of the time. Where you don't want to, what you don't want to do is build something on 7, deploy to RDSH, or vice versa. You want to kind of keep those platforms consistent.
So we have the famous question: how's the product licensed? Per user, per VM?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it comes two ways. So you can get it as part of Horizon Enterprise, which includes View, Mirage, Workspace Portal, Synapse. I said Mirage, VCops or VROPS, as well as AppVolumes. So that's one way you can get it. It's part of the Enterprise Suite. You can also buy it standalone, obviously. So it's I haven't even seen how. I assume it's I don't even want to say. I'm gonna have to find out on that because it just GA'd yesterday, and I haven't even seen any of the price lists yet. So what I'll do is I will get back to you guys on that. We'll capture that as a follow-up along with the local admin rights, and I will make sure I get you guys. I just don't want to say the wrong thing here. So
yeah, I'll shoot you an email with these questions so that way you can respond.
Cool. I think it might be on here. Let me get this thing here. That's not good. Start this thing off. But to finish it, you have to log back in, and that actually completes the provisioning process. Hopefully it'll kick off this time. There we go. The things you can do in a mobile lab that you would never do in production environment. Just shut it down. Once this comes back up, I'll log in. And this is the last thing I was going to show you guys. So again, think of any additional questions. We can open it up. We can, however you guys want to handle it. But this is the last piece I want to show you. Is basically updating the SAP stack on the RDSH side. If there's anything else you guys want to see, just put it through the hashtag, put it into GoToMeeting, and I'll show you. So that's looks like that's up. So let me log back into the provisioning system for RDSH. You can see it's successfully provisioned. Just say OK. Now we can come back to the console. You can see the app update. App stack is ready. I'm going to assign this. See that system? So if I can find it. There we are. Now if I go into Control Panel, I want to verify that it's got the right version of the Mirage client. So it's 18.875, certified. So let's go ahead and connect into the published application. Make sure we can connect to my Mirage environment. So I'm not going to log out. I'm just going to reconnect into that application. This should be seamless. It should connect right back in. Yep. system. Again, you see you can make very dynamic changes under RDSH without really impacting your users. Like my Notepad++ is still open down here. You know, I could launch additional apps here if I want, Firefox. They're all going to come from that same RDSH box. There you go. I'm connected into my Mirage environment. So I was able to deploy an app stack to an RDSH server, determine there was an issue, and then update that app stack very quickly so that I can get my users up and running. So that's pretty much what I had as part of the planned demonstration. So questions now, or additional things you guys want to see, and I'll do my best.
Right now I don't see any more questions. Is there anything you guys want to see demoed?
And you guys can always reach out to me directly on Twitter as well. If you guys have additional questions, I'm Chris D. Halstead. I'll be monitoring the hashtag as well, the vBrownbag hashtag, and I'll answer any questions. I know I have 2 takeaways. We had a question on the why we need local admin access, and I just want to make sure I give you guys the right answer. And then licensing, exactly how it's licensed. I don't know if it's going to be concurrent or named. I assume it'll be both, but I just don't know at this point. So I'll definitely get that answer for you guys. So that's pretty much all I had. I really appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully this was good information and valuable. And again, if you have additional questions, you think of things, use the vBrownbag hashtag, reach out to me directly on Twitter, and we'll get those answers for you.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was really, really informative. A lot of people are on the hashtag are enjoying it.
Good deal. Well, I enjoyed it too. It was fun. So thanks, everyone. Take care.